Yo, what is up, everybody? I'm here with the man, Casey Adams. Super excited. Met you in person first, which actually doesn't really happen nowadays with like interviews, at least with
Yeah.
me. You do a lot of like in-person interviews, right?
Yeah, I try to do a lot of them now, especially because it's more personal. It allows me to actually connect, which is my main goal in terms of interviewing people.
Yeah. So for people who don't know Casey, he's like I pretty much say you're dominating in the podcasting world, and I've used you as case studies of what people should
Thank you,
do,
man.
of like how like you've like executed amazingly. Like you've pretty much interviewed like the most badass entrepreneurs that are like out there. Like I try to think of
Thank you,
people
man.
above them. I'm like, shit, like you just got presidents. That's about it. And
Yeah,
then,
man,
so
that's the next step.
so dude, I'm pretty excited to dive in. And for people who don't know who you are, can you kind of explain real briefly why you're awesome, and then kind of like what you do like when you
Totally, man.
live?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So right now, people that may not know, my name's Casey Adams, and I have a brand known as Build Your Empire, which is a media company focused on events as well as changing the game in terms of content creation. So our main focus is showcasing world-class entrepreneurs, and we do that, like I said, through our content. We have about 1.5 million followers on Instagram, and we're one of the biggest business pages on Instagram, and we've been a thing for like 6 years. But our whole focus is to change the game in terms of the event space. As you know, there's so many business events out there, and our whole goal is to sort of create the complex con of business events, or the Coachella of business events, where it's like something you want to be a part of. And we're doing something that we're really excited about that I'll touch on real quick is we're doing a Young and Reckless Build Your Empire collaboration event in May. So it's gonna be super cool. And our whole goal is to really just focus on strategic collaborations right now in the terms of branding, because I always tell people I've built my personal brand, and I've been able to sit down and interview over 100 world-class people, such as the Gary V, Andy Frisella, Ed Mylett, Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, all these guys that are like massive business influencers. It's allowed me to open up my whole network very, very amazingly. And overall, it's led me to this whole path of starting a podcast. And I've had a podcast for about a year and a half now. But to kind of sum it up, man, my whole thing has been massively building a personal brand on social media, networking with the most amazing business influencers in the game, and now taking that leverage and that audience that I've been able to build on Instagram mainly to then take it to the market and actually build products and services through my company, which is Build Your Empire.
Gotcha, dude. Well, what's up, everybody? We got some hashtag lives. You're on live. Give me hashtag
Heck
live.
yeah.
Houston says, "Yo, love what you do, Casey." Houston's the
Thank
man.
you, man.
So dude, this interview, like I'm way more excited now because I did not know like you were going at that angle of like you're like evolving from the podcaster into like the in-person event things.
Yeah, man.
I kind of want to touch on that a little bit. How, like, what is so you said in May you have this thing going on with drama, right?
Yep, a drama.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, what is that like? The whole event process. What's your goals with
Yeah,
that?
man. So I'm excited. So like, to give you some context. So about 3 years ago, one of my mentors, Ty Lopez, which I'm sure a lot of people are aware of, he told me he flew me out to one of his flew me out to his house in LA, put me in some of his courses, and he told me, he's like, dude, if you want to build a badass network, go to events and host events. He's like, you'll be the man, and also you'll be the guy that goes to a lot of events and meets a lot of people. So my whole intent with that was about a year and a half ago. Me and my buddy Kieran, we just had a couple events prior to Build Your Empire, and we were just bringing influencers together, and we're like, yo, let's take this seriously. But we both obviously both did our own things, but we've had two Build Your Empire official events here at the Build Your Empire house in Arizona. And we've had over 25 speakers come out each time. We had one in October and one in January, about 250 people here at the house. And we've had people such as like Cole Hatter, David Meltzer, Brad Lee, Drama from Young and Reckless, D. Murphy, Matt Morgan, all these amazing guys, and the list goes on and on. But our whole thing is this, in terms of personal branding, like I did for myself, I always talk about association branding of like, I've been able to sit down with so many world-class people from a personal brand that has elevated me. So now I want to go through that whole process again through my brand, Build Your Empire. It's bigger than me, right? So our whole goal is strategic collaborations, like I said, and Drama came out. And here's one of the things too, because like, me and Drama, like the idea came about when he was like, yo, I liked your event. I saw a kid wearing Yeezys, wearing Supreme, and he was taking notes at a business conference. He was like, that kind of blew my mind. And like the whole room, we gave away a bunch of Young and Reckless. He was like, dude, the whole room came back day two, was rocking Young and Reckless. They were asking us real questions, and it was a business sort of vibe. he's like, it's something that I've never seen before. So he's like, yo, I want to get in the event game, but I don't want to do it solo, with what he means by like, he doesn't want to just be like Young and Reckless Business Mastermind, because that's not their brand. They're a clothing company. So he's like, yo, I like Build Your Empire. Let's do an event. We're Young and Reckless, Build Your Empire, collaboration, real business people, real leaders, and make it cool. Because as you know, like there's so many events out there that like someone like myself who's 18 years old, it's like, we don't like the suit and tie, button up your collar and walk in, shake your hand. Hello, great to meet you, sir. Like obviously it shows character and it shows class. I'm not saying don't be like a genuine person and shake someone's hand. What I mean by that is we like to just be ourselves, be authentic, walk in a room, wear whatever we want to wear. If we're specializing in the space, you can do that by your skill set, not by like the perfect appearance, right? But their whole intent with that, because Drama, he'll wear sweatpants to work every day. He has a cool environment at the Young and Reckless office. So he's like, dude, let's do this event. But the catch here is this. It's $50. So super low ticket. You can't even go out to eat in LA without spending $50, right? So our whole goal with it is to like completely change the game in terms of like, you're going to be being able to see someone like Tom Bilyeu or Rob Dyrdek or Drama or my team from Build Your Empire and a lot of the other key. Ooh, can you see me?
Yep, I gotcha.
Call. So long story short though, all these people that are going to be coming into this event, like we could charge thousands of dollars for this, right? And people do it. The market says, like, we've had events that we charge $1,000 for, people pay it. But our whole goal is to reinvent the entire space and really do a strong collaborative event, because someone like Drama, and I would say this to him right to his face, he's not in the world of entrepreneur space, right? He has a podcast. He interviews world-class people. He has multiple podcasts, actually, and he has a massive company. He is a true entrepreneur. But he's in that aspect of like celebrity Hollywood. He's from MTV. Him and Rob Dyrdek did the Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory, Robin Big. They're in that celebrity lane of like, there's a big difference between someone that's like in this entrepreneur space motivating people, or someone like Drama, who is an entrepreneur that has a real brand that's putting out content, right? So our whole goal and our whole collaboration opportunity comes down to like, all right, how can we take our world of events and business events and making them cool, but add a stamp of approval from a brand like Young and Reckless to make it cool in terms of like celebrity entrepreneur world. So it takes that next step of like, you can go to a like musical after high school, or you can go to Coachella, right? It's like there's levels and there's an aspect of brand worthiness of like what people want to be a part of. And I know Build Your Empire, what we're doing here, it's like it's early, it's young. We're focusing on doing these collabs because we know it brings value. But the whole goal is for the people that go there, it's just going to be an entire different experience than anything seen before. Just because, number one, Drama, he's never had an event, right? And he's gonna be the host with myself. And it's just going to be a cool dynamic. Someone that's went from MTV to retail stores to then e-commerce to then podcast to entrepreneur to then events. Like he knows how to pivot, and he knows that the event space nowadays is massive, but he wants, like I said, step into the game with a cool, different angle. And I'm super happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, like I could see it being really, really like value driven, because like they're not the type of people who just like all about motivation. Like they're not Gary Vee. They're just like building and actually doing things, which is cool. Yeah. And it's crazy how like, so from what a common thing that I see from you is that you're fucking fast. like what are you, like 18 years old right now?
18, yeah.
Okay. And you grew your podcast extremely fast. You're doing this really fast, but you're also doing the right way. You're not starting like, because I know a lot of people like it's smart to throw events in the beginning and make them really, really cheap just to build the credibility, build the community, get the testimonials, like really get that image, and then go big. That's awesome. We have some questions here, but we'll get to them more towards the end. They're really good questions here. Bro, I want to know, because we were talking about this before the call about how podcasting and how it relates to your brand and how you use it as like, I see it as like the biggest asset out there right now. It's like one of the biggest like hacks. Like people still don't understand what's happening when you ask them to get on a podcast. They don't understand the arbitrage that's happening. But you were saying too, like how it comes to a point where you build your brand and it becomes like passive. So almost like it's just something that's static that can always give you inflow. What do you, I guess my question is, with podcasting, like what should people's whys and purpose be if they want to start a podcast so that they can have success?
Yeah, man. So I think, and it's a great question, by the way. And I think one of the biggest things, like why I started my podcast, I started about a year and a half ago. It was December 27th, 2017. So I was going hard in 2018, obviously it's 2019 now, but it was one of those things where it's like, I've been growing my Instagram. I've had a brand, and like, I always talk about the concept, like I said before, association branding. And like, instead of building an Instagram page where it's like, look at me, look what I'm doing, like I wanted to make a massive pivot. And the way you do that is people, right? If you can elevate others and showcase their story, and you do that for a long period of time, it elevates you. So my whole intent was like, all right, if I can interview a lot of world-class entrepreneurs, you're overall going to be put in that category of world-class entrepreneur. If you're an athlete and then you start balling with MJ and Kobe and LeBron, you're going to be put in that category of like, oh, this dude's like one of the legends, like in the sense of like the people you're around, you are who you associate with, right? But my whole intent with it was like, when I started the podcast, it was like a networking tool, right? Because nowadays, in terms of, people always say, how can I provide value to someone? How can I make myself valuable? And I knew myself, being 17 at the time, I'm like, I can't go to Grant Cardone and be like, yo, let's get lunch. You know, it's not going to happen. He's almost a billionaire. He's busy. Like, these dudes are running multi-$100 million companies. But if I have an audience, which is valuable to someone, and I have a different approach, meaning I'm young and I'm building my brand, and then I have a communication vehicle, which I call a collaboration vehicle, that's value in terms of they can speak to me and I can put it to my audience. So obviously, as you know, podcasting was that vehicle. Started the podcast, and at the time I had a social following. It wasn't like I had no value to them, maybe 100,000 followers on Instagram. But my whole intent from the very beginning was people. I did a lot of interviews actually through Be Live. So like, I love this platform, by the way. And it all started when I was in high school. I was just doing interviews like every other day. Like, one day I would get home from school, finish my homework, and then interview Ed Mylett. And then I'd go to school the next day, interview Andy Frisella, and then Brad Lee. And then I interviewed Drama over Be Live, actually. It's on my Facebook page. And it's like, I started just associating with all these different people just through a platform like this. And slowly I was able to take that, put it into the podcast. And it allowed me to elevate my brand through people, right? Like, it's all about collaborations. Like, people, if you want to be a one-man army, you're not going to last against 1,000 people or 50 people, right? It's like, you have to know that there's power in opportunities within collaborations, right? So that being said, to answer the question directly, my whole mindset going forward with it was like, how can I just gain a network of people that if I deleted my Instagram tomorrow, I can still call up and ask questions to and actually have a relationship with long term? Because I know I'm young, I'm 18, like, if I can just plant seeds in all of these amazing people in terms of like them knowing me, because there's a big difference between knowing someone and someone knowing you, right? Like, people say that all the time, like, oh, I know this person, that person. And I'm like, great, but do they know you? Can you text them? Can you call them? Like, would they give you a thumbs up if you like asked them a question and you needed some advice, right? So long story short, that's what I did. I was made a major pivot to like do in-person interviews, to sit down with people, because I knew the power of just like repetition in terms of getting in front of someone. And like I said, to completely just smash this question, people remember people. And if you can allow yourself to associate with people inside of your industry that are top notch, you're automatically going to be placed there. And like I said, podcasting for me was that platform.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy because I literally just did an episode on this about like collaboration over competition. Like, that's one of the biggest pitfalls for people, is that they don't collaborate enough. Like, it happens in the music industry too. Usually people blow up because they were featured on this one track, and then boom, you know?
Dude, my buddy Charlie says it best. He's like, yo, why do you think Drake's winning? He's like, Drake put on so many young people. Like, there's so many young people that did a collab with Drake, and now they're like top notch, right? And like, my buddy Charlie knows all the names, but it's like, Drake's not afraid to like give this dude a shot, right? And same thing with all these bigger influencers like Grant Cardone. He's like 61, almost a billionaire. Like, the fact that he sat down with a 17-year-old for an hour and a half, like, he's giving us a shot. Like, if you follow that, like, you understand how the game works, right? Because like, you're only gonna stay relevant if you're around the people that are just getting started, right? And that, I think that's why a lot of people that are younger, whether that's 18, 25, or whatever it is, if you have a podcast, it allows you to communicate with someone, and you can really build a relationship with them by asking questions, by sitting them for an hour. Like, people remember that, right? If you run across and say what's up to someone on the road for 2 seconds, take a picture, they're not going to remember you. You didn't get deep with them. You didn't ask them questions. You weren't looking them in the eyes for an hour straight, right? So it's like those little like personality traits that come into building a relationship. Like, podcasting is like the answer.
Yeah, dude, and it works for every industry. Anything that involves human beings, it works.
For sure.
Sal says, this is awesome, dude. Hashtag Dream 100. Yeah, we call it Dream 100 in marketing world, which is like your top 100. If you were able to work with them, they would blow up your business, your brand, etc.
For sure.
Dude, that's amazing. Let's see. Let me pull up my next question here. I'm pretty interested in you're well, actually, let me ask you this. For podcasting, what was your biggest struggle that you had?
Yeah,
And then
dude.
how did you overcome it?
Yeah, man. So I think it's even like something we talked about yesterday, and I'm gonna be honest right now. It's like I think one of the biggest things in terms of podcasting is like, for example, I haven't posted a podcast in about a month, right? So it's like the
Yeah, dude.
consistency,
You're
right?
slacking,
So
bro.
and it's been ups and downs in terms of I started my podcast with the intent of like I had a meeting with Gary V, and I'm like, yo, I got to get out 30 episodes before I have this meeting because I want to talk to him about how I did 30 interviews before that meeting. Like it was just a conversation I wanted to have. So boom, I knocked out like 30 interviews in 60 days. Every other day I was interviewing people, and it started out by just like my friends, people that I already had in my reach. And then after that, it really came down to like leveraging my brand and actually reaching out to the people that I wanted to truly sit down with. But I think the biggest struggle with it is obviously like just making it happen, right? It's like you have to sit down, block out time, and like for someone like myself, it's like I just do the podcast because I want to meet people, monetize in the back end. I'm not running ads and all that stuff right now, but my whole intent with it is to meet people. So it's like you have to commit to like whether that's flying and doing an interview with someone, whether that's sitting down with an hour where you could be doing something else within your business, right? So it's like it's more so the challenges came from like making the commitment, right? But once I did, it changed everything. But I think even to still this day, it's just like it's a game of repetition, right? Where it's like you have to keep doing the same thing, like interview, ask different questions, different people, whatever. Long story short, the biggest challenge for me would be just where I am today. It's like it's juggling so much content that it's like I know podcasting is like my passion, and I'm still doing it every single day. Like I have so many episodes that I haven't dropped, and it's like why not, right? So it's just a game of like getting them out there, honestly, because I know some people that have interviewed so many people, they just haven't put them out there. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? But then I look at myself, I'm like, oh yeah, like, I need to start putting them out way more consistently and having a set schedule. So that's one of the things that I'm
Yeah.
getting down right now, actually. But yeah, that's the
Yeah.
truth.
And I was telling you this too, like some of the biggest people who are very consistent with their podcast, like all they focus on is talking and getting
Yeah,
the people. Everything else, like it's all systematized. Like they don't worry about that. Like it's all just like organized and on
yeah,
another end. Okay, dude. So you've met a lot of like amazing, like I was saying, like the most badass entrepreneurs in the world.
yeah,
What is like a common theme that you've like absorbed from being around all these people?
yeah, man. Great question, by the way. It's funny because I think one of the biggest things is like I've been able to just meet just through podcasting and then the people they know that I met through them, sort of thing. But the biggest thing that I've seen consistent throughout everyone, whether that's male, female, black, white, young, old, whatever it is, it's like these people are not only consistent, but they're committed, right? Like in terms of, let's say, Grant Cardone or Andy Frisella or Ed Mylett, it's like, dude, these people are putting out content for free. They're obviously building their brand and there's value there, but it's like you have to understand that the top-notch people are there for a reason. And if you listen and you have the opportunity to sit down with some of these people, you know why, right? Like they know the value of a minute, they know the value of a dollar, they know the value of habits, they know the value of being in the right circles, right? But the biggest thing is like they know the value of like the things that people don't want to talk about: being truthful, being honest, being accountable, like just not being someone that has the biggest ego and says no, 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 no to everyone and thinks he's the man. Like a lot of these people, it's like they're as much as I'm willing to listen, they're willing to listen and give advice, right? So it's like I always say, it's a two-lane road, right? Me asking questions to Grant, let's say, he'll learn something from me as much as I learn from him, right? And same thing when people always say like, oh, like when you go to an event, the speakers speak and the listeners listen, right? But every time I do a public speaking gig, I always learn more than I believe the people do, right? Because it's like you learn from body language, you learn from eye contact, you learn from like the way people associate with other people. But if I just simplify everything that I said there, the real winners are winners for a reason due to their habits and the consistency of what they're doing, right? None of them, it happened overnight. You see so many people running ads like how I made $14 billion in a day, swipe up and get this course. Like all that stuff that people are selling out there. It's like, dude, you have to focus on the long game. If you're not focused on the long game, why are you doing what you're doing? There's no shortcut. There's no like hack you can do to, yeah, you can grow your business and maybe you have extreme growth quickly, 100%. But the people that are really winning, dude, are people that have been in the game for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and they're still on that path, and they know they have another 30 years to go, right? Like they're just getting started. Like Gary Vee, when I met him, like, dude, he's the most like like, dude, I'm just getting started. I got to do this. Like, he's so like on top of it. And it's like, dude, they're winners for a reason. They're not taking shortcuts, right? And that's the biggest thing I'd say I've learned from them is like adopting that mentality now, where it's like you're gonna win, you're gonna lose, you're gonna have setbacks, you're gonna have successes, but it's like if you just focus on the bigger picture of like, yo, this is the journey, and when I'm in their shoes, like when I'm 40, when I'm 50, like I gotta know that I'm just getting started because like that's their mentality. And like Gary's like, dude, you have no idea. He's like, I feel 18 right now, but I'm 42, right? But it's like that philosophy of like just getting started and never having an ending. All these guys are never just gonna be like, yo, I'm gonna retire and I'm gonna be out. Like, you know, it's like these guys are committed to what they're doing because they know it's not only helping people, but it's like changing the world, it's changing their community, and overall it's like it's making them the best version of themselves, you know?
That's freaking amazing, dude. Yeah. And like they embody it. And like I can tell almost from you too, like from seeing how you like navigate, like you're not fronting, like this is like who you are. So dude, I want to talk about because I feel like a natural evolution for someone who's creating content is to obviously like get into like physical spaces and to actually talk to people in person. And you're doing a great job. Like you crushed it at Social X
Thank you, man.
with your speaking conference. What do you think is the difference, like the pros, the cons, or different skills you need to have to speak in front of an audience compared to speaking behind a microphone or like virtually?
Yeah, man, it's funny because like I'll bring you back. So like when I was in like 7th grade, 8th grade, like I hated speaking in front of class. And I think the biggest misconception of public speaking is not knowing what you're speaking about, right?
Yeah.
If someone told me to go up on stage and speak about like
History or some shit.
talk
Or
about
yeah.
building softwares and AI technology, right? Dude, I would be nervous and I would suck. Blank. You know what I'm saying? Like 100%. So I think the biggest thing about speaking is like if you know what you're talking about, you know what you're talking about, you've actually done it, and you're speaking from existence. Like that's where real speakers speak. And I always tell people, and this is something my mentor John Mylett says. He's like, dude, I'm not a speaker. I'm an entrepreneur that speaks. Big difference. There's so many speakers that just are speakers because they're speakers and they're speaking, right? Like if you haven't gone through it, and I'm not saying I've gone through anything. Like I'm 18 years old, but I speak on what I've done: personal branding, podcasting, building relationships, leveraging that, building a brand, the collaborations, the methodical and strategies to do that. But I think the biggest reason why I've not only loved public speaking, but I believe I've gained a good stage presence is because like I try to be the most genuine version of myself every single day, no matter if I'm talking to Grant Cardone, if I'm talking to someone that just downloaded Instagram, right? So it's like if I can maintain the authentic communication to the audience and speak from existence, like there's only good things that come from that, and people feel that, right? You know when someone's fronting, you know when someone hasn't done that, you know when like if you're like the best guy at like NASCAR racing and someone comes and pulls up in a car and says, "Yo, I want to beat you," you just know that you're like, dude, you just got your license, like, dude. Don't front. Like you like no, but there's a perspective on that, right? Like Grant Cardone, when he sees a good real estate deal, he just sees it. He doesn't have to like ask himself, like, is this the right thing? But someone that's just getting started, like they have to learn the intuition of that, right? But answering the question, public speaking to me is something where it's like it allows me to, like I said, get content. It allows me to speak from existence. And I think there's three mechanisms of learning that Ty Lopez always talks about. He's like, there's the actual physical learning of like you're like reading the book, taking the notes. You're learning that way. Then you're learning by applying, right? And then you're learning by like teaching. Because if you can teach something and people get it, it helps you be like, all right, if they get it, that means that's actually valuable. Therefore, I put something across the table that they can apply and take and implement, right? So it's like it helps me learn the strategies that I'm utilizing, and I speak on what I did, what I'm doing, and what I plan to do, right? And I always like to speak from like now, because there's so many speakers that's like, for me, I've been in the social media game for only like 3 years, and like I drove through my journey, but I like talking to the people inside the room that's like, you can take this note, great, but it's like, do what I'm saying because it's simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Like DM 25 people a day. Set up a collaboration vehicle, video, like respond to people's DMs, like in terms of branding, personal branding. Like the simple things go the longest way. There's no strategies that's gonna make you famous overnight or that you're gonna blow up on Instagram and just be the man. Like you have to put in the work. You have to meet the people. You have to collaborate. You have to put in the time, the effort, the everything, right? And there's no shortcuts. That's the biggest thing. But back to the question, speaking. Just I think speaking is a blessing because it allows me to just navigate my thoughts and narrow them down and actually provide value in any way I can.
Yeah, man. And you're doing it the right way. You touched on a lot of points there. You know, 3 steps: learn, apply, share. Like that's
Yeah,
basic. And you know, I would say like kind of what you, just to kind of rephrase what you said, like self-awareness, and when you're like, producing things, and like how you speak on stage is coming from a place of like your unique factor, and you're always like practicing that and sharpening your iron, so to speak.
yeah,
And that's how people sense it. They can feel like, hey, this is just him in his element, in his
for
own.
sure.
So we got some questions here. We'll zip through real quick.
Let's go.
Houston asked, Casey, are you focusing on selling digital info products in the future, or what's your biggest monetization strategy with your personal brand?
I love this. Yeah, so right now it's been funny because like I've been very hesitant and like have not been putting any focus into putting out some sort of digital product because there's a big, I would say, misconception of people out there, right? It's like you see Andy Frisella, he always talks about like, yo, there's so many young kids putting out courses and selling $1 in e-commerce and then making $100,000 of courses about how to sell e-commerce, right? So that whole like space, it's like a gray area that I always tell myself I want to be respected by the respected, right? Meaning I want to have respect from people that a massive population respects, right? So for me, I've been very hesitant in terms of digital products of like Casey Adams course or Build Your Empire course. But what I want to do and what we're actually planning on doing is a challenge because it's something where it's like I want to show you what I did, but show you what I'm doing, not show you what I did, do that, and then do something different, right? So our biggest thing now is we're going to be putting together this whole Build Your Empire 90-day challenge, and it's a personal brand challenge where it's like everything I've done have been in time periods where it's like, oh, I have a 45-day window until the Gary V interview. Let me do 30 interviews prior to that and maximize time. So I always love attaching time frames to things that I need to get done. But in terms of monetization, it's all back end for me, right? So it's like I interview people for free. I don't run ads. I build a relationship. But then when I sell an event and it sells out in a couple of days, I do that by pulling together all these amazing people that I've interviewed and they come to my event. They don't charge me because they genuinely want to help me based off the relationship that I built, the genuine, authentic communication that I have with them. And it allows me to like pull and double dip, I say, pull people to you. If you can find out how you can pull people to you, there's more money to be made in people than there is a product, right? Because people are the products, right? So it's like for me, if you can just gather so many amazing people into your life that are actually doing things, that are putting out products, you can fine tune and develop so many products, whether that's managing someone's podcast or managing their personal brand, whatever it is. But for me, we are going to be putting out a digital challenge, but it's going to be nothing seen before because our whole thing is, like I said, our statement is show you what we did, but show you what we're doing. That's the biggest thing because a lot of people, they'll teach from what they did, but they're doing a whole different strategy. And it's like, bro, you're just putting people 2 years behind. Like, what are you doing, right? So that's our main intent. But we're going to be releasing something super soon, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, and I've sold some digital products before, and the thing is, when people who buy digital products, it's usually because of shiny object syndrome,
Totally.
a lot of marketing, and it's hard to put them on a success path. Like I love the challenge path now, actually, like what you're doing. Like we're launching a 21-day podcast launch challenge. It's launching on Monday.
Dude, amazing.
Because like there's accountability to it, and there's an end result, and there's something like a fire under your ass to get this.
So glad you said that, bro. Good stuff. That's it.
Yeah. There's a lot because everyone I know who's like crushing it and the people following them are getting results and actually changing their life is because like through challenges,
Yeah, dude. Because people like challenges, right? It's like when you run a marathon, you don't run a marathon to like run a marathon. It's a challenge, right? You want to accomplish it, right? When you're playing sports, it's a challenge to like I played lacrosse, pick the ball up, run down the pass, shoot, score. The challenge is that, right? It's not like, all right, I'm gonna show you how to score. And I showed you how. It's like, dude, if you attach challenges to things in the smallest degree, like it gives you that sense of urgency, right? And if you give yourself any sort of urgency, like it makes your focus like very, very dialed in. And that's what I've done. And I think I've been so hesitant to like not put out some sort of digital product because I want to build brand value. There's always too early. Sometimes you can be too late to things, but in terms of branding and digital products, you're never too late to put out a product. If you're building a real brand that people know, like, and trust you, but if you're too early, it's a bad look, right? So it's like for me, I've been just very hesitant, and I know when we do it, it's going to be done right because the authority bias and the people associated within it is going to be never seen before.
I love it. You got longevity like installed into everything, man.
You have to, bro. You have to.
You're not cashing your chips early, which is awesome. We got one question here, which is pretty good, and obviously, I think you're it's a testament to all the big names you got that you're like a pro at this. How do you reach out to those big players and stand out when they get so many messages? You know, basically, how do you become a master at sliding in the DMs?
For sure. So I'm gonna give you like three things, and it's very important and it's different for everyone. So number one, on the simple scale, how do I get in touch with them? Like you just said, a DM on Instagram, right? But that doesn't give you any context. So A, DM on Instagram. B, no one can just DM anyone and get a response, right? I built brand value and quote unquote value of audience beforehand, right? I had maybe it was 100,000 followers before I reached out to Grant Cardone or Ty or whoever. That was a huge thing of like having an audience, reaching out, but also positioning. Everything in life is positioning. You can position yourself well, you can position yourself horrible, but the people that do it well will do well. That's what I've heard like from all these people. Because for me, for example, if I want to interview Grant Cardone, I want to interview Bradley before him. I want to interview people that he knows, people that are in his circle, because then when I go to you and I say, yo, I've interviewed 3 of your best friends, blank, 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 you name their names, and say I have a top 100 business podcast or whatever it is, people are more in tune to say yes if you are already touching their circle, right? So I always tell people, you don't want to meet the president. You want to meet the president's best friend, right? Because they're the real decision maker, right? In terms of if you want to get something across to them, or push across the table to the main guy, you got another friend, bro. You got another assistants. You got another team. So for me, any person, like I interviewed all my good friends that I know before any of the big guys. It wasn't 0 to 100. It was 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. And once you get some interviews under your belt and some names under your belt, you start going for their friends before you go for them, for the pure intent to genuinely connect with their friends, not to use them, not to leverage them, but to be in the circle that they're in, because it's only good people, right? But at the end of the day, if you have no brand and no social footprint, no social audience, no personal brand, dude, these people get so many DMs, and it's a timing thing, bro. Like when you see Grant Cardone on Instagram and you see that little green bubble saying he's active, reach out to him then. Don't like the little like trigger points of like knowing when someone's on Instagram is such a valuable thing, because if you DM them and then like their pictures and then comment on their picture, you just popped up on their feed 4 times in 30 seconds. And if they happen to see that and then they see you like and comment and then they see you DM because they checked it real quick, you might get a response. But also one of the biggest things of I'm just going to be very blunt I sat down with Jay Shetty. I'm sure a lot of people know who Jay Shetty is, right? He's one of the biggest personal brands on Instagram. He's had like 3 billion views on his videos. And he's like, dude, the only reason I got back to you is because you're verified on Instagram. And I was like, that's so strange. And I'm not saying that because like from an egotistical perspective. I'm saying that in forms of a psychology perspective of like, if you figure out ways to have triggers of attention through social, like if you're, let's say, verified on Instagram, you have way more leverage. And I've been able to find the right people and develop the right internal strategy in terms of PR, in terms of positioning to get that done for myself. And we're currently doing it for Build Your Empire. And that itself, it just gives you an instant credibility stamp when reaching out to people. You appear higher in the DMs. People can see it. It's weird how like powerful it is, but it's so powerful. And I'm just gonna be super blunt because a lot of these people I've asked that, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, like I get DM'd by so many people at your age with podcasts, and maybe they interviewed my friends, but you have to be very meticulous on the brand you're building and figure out ways how to position yourself where there's value and where there's credibility. And if you can do that, like you'll be in. But it comes down to that strategy, and that's what we're going to be teaching is like, because I'm no different than anyone else. I'm not someone that has this crazy story. Like, yeah, I've been able to leverage and position myself very amazing. And it came from strategy, bro. It's not a tactic of like, if I had 1 million followers, great. But it's the strategy and approach of people and communication and leverage and positioning that makes all the difference.
Yeah, man. And especially because like these bigger people, they have so many filters because there's so much noise, and they have to have these things like, oh, I'll only respond if you're verified or something, just because they can't just be there all day responding.
Exactly.
They're very, like, their time is precious. And dude, that strategy, it's kind of like the art of war that you explained. Like if there's someone that's really big, you become friends with all their friends and you kind of like flank them because now you're like, oh, he's cool because he knows all my friends. It just builds automatic like trust by association.
Dude,
that's awesome.
That's all it is, brother. Like if you want to know someone, like for example, if you want to meet LeBron James, bro, if you become best friends with his mom, and his mom's like, dude, LeBron, like you got to meet Casey. he will instantly be like, dude, he's the man, you know, because there's a stamp of approval, right? So you have to, if you think about that in terms of networking and especially with social media, like if I interview yourself and then if I interview your friends and then I DM you and then you look at my Instagram page and you see the last 4 pictures are with like 4 of your friends that you know, you're like, dude, who is this dude? Then you're reaching out to your friends. Is this dude legit? Is he cool? And they'll say, yeah, cool. Yeah, he's awesome. Like, do the interview because you're genuine and like you have real like core values that people like respect. You have way more leverage than someone that reaches out to you and is like, yo, let me do an interview. Like, you're the man, right? Because they get that all day, every day. So it's the positioning on the back end that like people don't talk about enough. And I believe I don't even talk about it that much that I need to. That's why we're like developing this is it's like positioning, bro. If I had to give anyone value today, position yourself. And you
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, Goosen just said he slide into your DMs, dude. So
let's go.
Awesome, dude. I have some rapid fire questions. We'll wrap
Totally.
up with that. Cool with that? Cool. Number one, I always like to ask this, like, what are you currently obsessed with? Like anything in life that's just like taking your attention. You're like, dang, I have a passion for this right now.
Yeah, man. So I think if I had to really put it down to words, it'd be one word: collaboration.
Yeah.
So, and what I mean by that is like, for example, this is what we're doing. The process that I've took my personal brand through in terms of collaborations with podcasts, in terms of sitting down with powerful people, it's built my brand as Casey Adams, right? But my focus right now is build your empire, right? Separate brand, bigger than me. It's a real brand, not a personal brand, right? So it's something that I could sell eventually, right? But collaboration, meaning as much as I want to sit down with someone and do an interview with them personally, I want to do brand collaborations. That's why we're doing the Young and Reckless deal with Young and Reckless Build Your Empire. 2 brands come together. Young and Reckless has been a thing for 10 years, multi-million-dollar company, crushing it, major brand credibility. With Build Your Empire, it elevates one step, right? Boom, one step. But if you can just keep focused on getting those steps, your brand will be positioned way valuable in terms of the collaborations you do because people remember people, right? People remember the collaborations you do. People remember what you wear, the people you're around, like the things you eat. Like that's like collaborations, right? Every day you collaborate within yourself. You're collaborating with the shirt you're wearing as like the physical appearance, the shoes you're wearing, the people you're around, the car you drive, just in terms of psychology, right? So it's like I'm obsessed with that. Is like good collaboration, good people, and doing that within Build Your Empire.
That's freaking, dude. You think you have like a philosophy major or something, dude? You think I'm the next level?
Thank you, brother.
Who is your biggest mentor, and what's the number one thing he taught you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've met so many people, but I think it comes down to fundamentals of like where I'm from in terms of like my parents. Like my dad simply like he tells me all the time, so to this day, he's like, dude, if you don't work for something, why do you deserve it? Right? That simple foundation of like you're never gonna get handed something in life. You're never why wait for something to come to you when you need to go get it, right? If you want it, if you want something, go get it. Like that philosophy, if you really like narrow it down, is the winning formula, bro. Like no one's gonna come and stroke you a check for $1 million and get handed to you. But if you're in a room with 20 investors and you have a good product and you say, hey, we're looking for $1 million, you might get $1 million. You get what you ask for, right? You get what you deserve because that's how the world works, right? And I've learned that from not only so many successful people, but like bringing you back to the foundations of like where I'm from and my parents. Like my dad says that since day one, and it's like it's the most real thing, like that I've, in my personal opinion, like it's the most real thing. If you get that, it's like, dude, you're no one's someone special. Everyone gets what they deserve, right? Like Kevin Hart, I just watched a podcast, like an interview with him. He's like, dude, I just work every day, and then he
with Joe
gets what
Rogan?
he deserves, right? Yeah, with Joe Rogan, right?
It was really good, my God.
So good. And I'm like, dude, that's just like how it is. Like The Rock, like all these legends, dude, they just started out with a dream and a vision and ambition, and they got what they deserve, right? So if you can just be like, dude, I'm at a state of my life, and I deserve it. If you can get that mentally, you will win because you're like, damn, like I guess this is all I deserve right now. What do I have to do to become more to deserve more, right? If you understand that, bro, like you will like that's the foundation that I'm on, and it's like I know there's levels of like you're only gonna get where you want to go by becoming who you need to become in that whole philosophy, you know.
That's awesome, man. That's freaking sweet. Last question here. What's the number one like investment you ever made? It could be in a mastermind, of an event, of whatever, anything.
For sure. Yeah, man. So I think going back on in a story, I think events, like people always say like best investment is yourself, right? And I'm not going to say that, like it's really cliche, but that is true. But what I mean by that is when I was 15 and my buddy Caleb Maddix was 14. He invited me to an event in San Diego. I've never been to California at the time, never been out West Coast, and I invested into a trip to go to an event called the Epic Mastermind Experience. And like I said, at the time, never really traveled before on a plane. And my dad was like, yo, like, what do you mean you're going to an event? Like, my family's never been to the West Coast. They never travel or whatever. So, like, I was like, no, I was making some money at the time. It was like $1,300 to buy 2 plane tickets for me and my dad and a hotel or whatever. Like, great deal. But my dad's like, yeah, if you fly me out, like, we can go. So, like, I just, boom, sent it, bought 2 plane tickets, got the hotel, went out to San Diego. And, like, that day was, like, really when I became, like, aware of, like, wow, like, I met Gerard Adams, I met Caleb Maddix, I met Dan Fleshman, Jeremy Haynes, all these guys that I'm, like, super tight with now that I've been able to build with for the last 3 years. Like, that was my first business mastermind that I went to, that like just going there and like now looking back 3 years from now, how like I'm really connected to all those people. Like that one trigger of going there, like the day I got back from that event, I met 3 people who were in Ty Lopez's program, and I DM'd Ty Lopez at the time, no brand, no verification on Instagram, maybe a couple thousand followers of my hometown friends or whatever. And I DM'd Ty Lopez. I was like, yo, Ty, I was at an event in San Diego with Jeremy Haynes, Dan Fleshman, and Joshua Earp, all these guys that I met there. Your whole 67-step course changed my life, right? And he got back to me. Long story short, 2 weeks later, he flew me out to LA to shoot videos in his courses. He put me in a hotel. I met amazing people there and mentors. But like then that started my trajectory of like the people that I met at Ty's house a month later flew me back out to LA. And I started like this whole momentum curve from that initial investment into that course. I mean, not that course, into the event and the airfare, right? And I always tell people like, there's 3 ways to invest into your personal brand. And I'm just going to say like the best investments I've made are time, energy, and just pure focus, right? If you can invest your time, that's the best investment because you can never get more back. Even though I'm 18, like you never know when your last day is, right? So the time you have now is the most valuable asset at the end of the day. But it's like, dude, spend time on things that matter to you, right? So for me, it's people. I still spend every day like meeting people, going to events because it matters to me. So your best investment should be the time you spend on the things that matter to you. Because if you're spending time on things that don't matter to you, that is the worst investment you can make, right?
It's like a negative investment.
and to really make it even more like clear to people, every day is a new investment. Like you're investing every single minute. Like this is a good investment for me. Doing this like interview with you today, it's phenomenal investment for me. It gets my brand, gets my message, allows me to speak to yourself. We build a relationship. So it's like my best investment is people. But if there was one, it would definitely be that initial trip, first time going out to California, because it just sort of like led me into this whole momentum cycle.
Yeah, dude. And you mentioned the 67 steps, dude. That course kind of changed my trajectory too. That course was like game changer for me. It inspired me to do a lot of cool things like travel to Thailand for 8 months,
Dude, for sure.
take a lot of risk.
And one of the biggest like concepts of that, why I love it, is like it wasn't necessarily a course. It was like 67 steps. It was a challenge. It was a video a day for 67 days, right? So it's like that philosophy, me looking back on my journey, it's like, dude, like it wasn't
I committed to it too.
Course. It wasn't the knowledge course. It was like the 67 steps. It's like, so if you can and he gave us steps day by day by day. So that's, like I said, like that approach to it with the 21 days, the 90-day personal brand challenge, whatever we all do, like if people can give you methodical steps and strategies, like it's what wins.
Yeah. It actually like builds that habit. Last question for real. Where did you get that like biggest uptick like in your followers like through Instagram? Because you said you were at a few thousand, like obviously So where did you get that like, oh shit, like I'm onto something, and you just started like the fire like lit?
Yeah, so I think there's 3 major things. 100% authentic. I'm gonna be real with everyone. Number one, it's a pay to play game nowadays, right? So I spend a lot of money just running ads and viral giveaways. So it's
ads on Instagram or
ads on Instagram, yes, and Facebook, and then like redirecting them to Instagram. But that's like sort of complex. Don't want to get into that. But paying for viral giveaways. There's a lot of people that are like, yo, let me put you in this viral giveaway. You'll grow 20,000 followers within 5 days, and it's all organic, but it's not targeted audience. I used to do a bunch of those. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, like $500, $600, just investing into my brand, testing. And like, yeah, it would grow your social credibility and it would grow your engagement. And like, this was like 2 years ago. But like, you got to understand, social media is a psychology game, right? If you see someone with 2 followers or 200,000, who are you more likely to follow and pay attention to? I don't have to say it, right? But it's a game of like building up that social credibility. But I think the biggest thing for me was the collaboration. So it's like Grant Cardone. We have a YouTube video that has 18,000 views. That is nothing crazy. That was me talking to him. But like everyone that watched that video on Grant Cardone's channel, like definitely like 5,000 people came from that. Or when Ty Lopez tagged me in his Instagram story, a couple thousand, right? So it's like it's not about this like the tactics of, oh, this is the hashtag strategy research best tactic in the game. It's like, dude, be around people that have brands. Long story short, if you actually build with them, they'll end up tagging you if you're someone valuable or you want to help them or whatever it is. And if you do that over a repetitive period of time of 90 interviews like myself, and they all post an Instagram story, like 500 followers from 100 people, you get the point, right? So that's sort of, if you do the math on that, it's all about collabs. And I do that every single day, whether that's an Instagram story of someone tagging me, I repost them. Like the simple things. You don't have to overcomplicate it and go interview 100 people and travel around the country and like physically meet them. Like if you DM me and you're like, yo, I'll give you blank, 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 or I'll tag your podcast and tag you, and can you repost it? Of course. If you listen to my podcast right now and then you screenshot it and tag me, I'll repost you. People will click on your profile, and if you have valuable content, they're likely to follow. Like those little simple things, like you can't pay for the simplicity of the strategy.
That's a hack right now too. I do that a lot actually. Like I'll tag people on little things. Like I'll say like, oh, I learned this quote from so and so. And I'll tag them and then they'll repost it. It's pretty. Don't know if it's gonna be like that forever, but
Sure.
dude, appreciate you so much for taking your time out to do this. For people who are listening here on Facebook and on the podcast, we have 8 listeners right now on Facebook. Where can people go follow you? I'm sure they know where to follow you, actually. Can you just let people know like what's coming up with Build Your Empire? Because I'm actually excited for like the event you're going to be throwing here.
Yeah, man. So my personal Instagram is at CaseyAdams1. Check me out on there. And then my brand at Build Your Empire. Make sure you go check that out. But yeah, those are my 2 main platforms, and you'll learn about all the podcasts and stuff. It's on iTunes, Rise the Young, Build Your Empire, all that stuff. But just the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to and that I want people to know right now is like you said, the events that we're doing is like, I always focus on taking things off the platform, right? Taking whether that's emails or relationships or people, right? It's like I genuinely want to meet. If there's 8 people watching right now, I want to meet you guys. Like come to the event. It's like $50. Like I want to genuinely meet and connect with people because I go back to the philosophy of like nothing's better than a handshake, right? Like I still live and breathe that philosophy, even though all the opportunity on social of like you could be on the beach and living by yourself and travel the world and never meet anyone and make millions of dollars. Like great, but real winners shake hands and like meet, right? Like that's like literally, bro. Like I met like a couple billionaires, and it's like when they're talking to you, bro, they're talking to you. They're not on their phone, on their Instagram. They probably don't even have Instagram, most of them. But it's like they're there with you. It's about people. It's not about the tactic strategy that will make you by yourself, right? So that's why we have these events, and that's why like us making it a $50 event and super affordable. Like, I'm just pumped up about it because like if I was 16 again and I could go to this event and meet all these people, like I was like, dude, like this is so amazing. Because I used to go to events where it's like you spend $1,000 and like there's times and places for it. We've charged $1,500 for tickets. I'm not saying don't do that. There's $50,000 masterminds that are worth it. But in terms of like someone that's just getting started or wants to build and grow a network, like if you just make the price not even a thought for the ticket and you just focus on airfare and travel and the things that you actually have to put into place to go to an event if you don't live locally, like that's what we want to change, just making an experience for the people and taking people off the platform because that's where value is at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. If only more people said that. Real people shake hands in the digital world we live in. Gustin said, I'm 100% agree coming over from Finland.
Let's go.
Jack says great interview, fellas.
It's all gonna be coming out within the next couple of days. It's gonna be super cool, and I'm just gonna put this out there for people that are listening here and just give them like some like very valuable insight in terms of branding. Because like when you think of collabs, like if I told you to go to buildyouempire.co/event and come to my event, like cool. But my thought process and why I know it's gonna be super valuable is like you're gonna be able to go to youngandreckless.com/buildyourempire and buy a ticket. So it's gonna be one of those things where it's like it's through Young and Reckless, right? It's not through us. We're the stamp of approval. But that collaboration, and I'm just making like people get this, and like it's valuable because if you focus on those type of collaborations, like it only massively increases your brand credibility. And it's going to be one of those things where it's like you go to youngreckless.com, right? It's like it's not my event, but it's a partnership event. But it's like I just want to put that out there because the people that want to come to the event that are watching this right now, like it's just super. It's like I'm going to learn so much from it, and you're going to learn so much from it. But it's like we're both going to be like this. The energy that's going to be in the room is going to be insane, man. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Love it, love it. It's shortcuts. Who doesn't love shortcuts?
Exactly.
Cool, man. Well, we'll wrap it up, guys. Thanks so much. Give me a hashtag replay if you're coming on the replay. And thank Casey. Go slide in his DMs. No, you're gonna get enough.
Dude, for sure. I'll get back to him.
All right, guys. Thanks so much, Casey, again, and peace out. I'm just gonna end the broadcast here.